Hello and welcome back to another week of the DP World Tour picks and bets. Skylar Hoke here, joined by Tom Jacobs, fresh off cashing a Bryson DeChambeau U.S. Open ticket. Tom, what were your thoughts on the major that was?
First of all, incredible drama, right? Like, I mean, there's everything. Everyone was kind of hyping up Pinehurst beforehand, and everyone was getting really excited about it. And two players really lived up to everything we wanted from that in that respect. Saturday, I just felt so confident in Bryson by the end of that round. Like, it just felt like he was completely automatic. He was just hitting fairways, hitting it long, putting really nicely. And then Sunday came around and he really was quite slow. And all of a sudden, Rory comes through and you think, right, this is, this is Rory's time, right? Like, it's been 10 years and he's finally got himself in the mix again. And when he took that two-shot lead, he got to 8 under, didn't he, on 14, I think it was, and Bryson went down to 6 after missing that short putt, and I just kind of felt like that was the end. I think I tweeted it out, and I was quite pessimistic about our chances. And then, I mean, what do you say? I mean, there's a lot of focus, obviously, on Rory's putts, which are ultimately what cost him. But that shot on 15, Sky, was an all-time terrible decision. Like, he is one of the highest ball flights, I imagine, on tour, and he hits a low shot into a green that he can't hold.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I guess, my overall emotions on it. Not having the Rory conundrum for, I think, people of our age, it's definitely a little bit different. And maybe I was a late bloomer in getting into falling into love how I am with golf now.
Yeah.
Tom, I don't have relevant memories of Rory dominating majors. Like, I have never, outside of watching highlights, like, that doesn't exist in my brain in the way it does for people who had that experience, who have been a little bit longer in the golf worlds for us. So maybe I'm not as emotionally disappointed as others are. I want the best for Rory. I think highly of Rory McIlroy. I think he's made a lot of tough decisions, been thrown onto the throne, maybe not by choice, and kind of ran over the bus a few times and backed up on. He's going through a lot personal. It seems like it would have probably been, I would have been very genuinely happy for Rory getting over that line. But at the same time, it was everything I've ever seen of Rory McIlroy, all in a 4-hole span. I guess all in a 9-hole span. The run up and the fall down when you're in the lead and you could par out to win this thing, like that. That was the roller coaster that has been. And boy, if there's scars from St. Andrews and LACC and all these other ones, that's got to be hard to mentally get over. On the same side, awesome for Bryson. Deserved, played exceptional, clearly is a way more matured version of himself, way more aware. I thought Pinehurst would put him in an absolute pretzel. I did not think that this would be the course that he could figure out in a way to make it work, because even in his, I mean, I guess I should have been more relevant of it by the way he played Augusta National, but in the weekend there, he couldn't figure out that place, and he had it from the jump at Pinehurst. And I think it's ludicrous to complain that he might have got the fortunate bounces. That's part of the U.S. Open. Like, that is luck. That is the U.S. Open, to get more fortunate than not in situations and take advantage. So, I mean, you had the ticket, you held the confidence in him, but yeah, I'm proud for Bryson. Good for him.
Yeah, I think going back to Rory a little bit, like, because I wasn't as much. So when Rory threw away the Masters in 2011, I was just about allowed to bet by then, in terms of like legal age, like I was 18 that year. And so that was kind of the first time really betting a major tournament in golf. So I kind of remember that. But when you think about his major wins early in his career, he converted just huge leads. And when I think back to why I think this probably is that he had this skill set at the time that just wasn't widely available. Like, he drove it like he drives it now then. So, and there was really Dustin Johnson, Bubba Watson, a host of other guys, right, that did the same sort of thing. And he just had this separating factor. Now, 2011 US Open, he went into the final round with an 8-shot lead, finished 8 shots ahead. PGA Championship in 2012, similar situation. I think he had a 3-shot lead going into the final round, finished 8 clear in the end. Like, that's what people remember, Rory McIlroy being. 2014 Open Championship, he had a 6-shot lead going into the final round. I was there. I remember thinking, this is going to be a bit of a non-event. He actually only won by 2 in the end from Sergio and Ricky that week. And then finally, like, the last one was when he beat Phil Valhalla, and that was sort of a closer fought affair. But, like, it just goes to show that, like, he was a really young, talented, beyond everybody else type player at a time where, obviously Tiger had a great, I think, 2013, but, like, either side of that, he was sort of taking advantage, I think, of that. And he's not obviously still top 3-4 players in the world, right? But he hasn't, I don't think, got that separation factor now. Like, Scotty Scheffler can do what he can do, Xander Schauffele can do what he can do. There's probably 6 or 7 players that can drive it the way he can, Bryson obviously being one of them. And when you don't have that separation factor anymore, and you actually have to just rely on being gritty and winning with that kind of, aplomb, I think is so much harder. I mean, he has obviously converted, co-leads from 54 holes and been behind and things like that. He can do it, but generally speaking, he's in full throw or taking advantage of someone that's falling away. So you can't take anything away from him. I thought he was going to win it yesterday. He was so good for the most part. But I think overall, the overall week, right, Bryson deserved it. I think you talk about the luck that people were mentioning on the final day. I think he earned that with the way that he played for 54 holes, and that's obviously coming from a slightly biased point of view. But, like, to watch how Rory hit the tee shot on the 15th, to then watch how Bryson hit it, like, just a slight difference in just course management and just great shots at the right time. And look, Bryson put himself. I couldn't believe. I mean, obviously he did it the day before, but I was surprised that Bryson decided to pull out driver on 18. But with that in mind, he didn't know Rory was going to miss a 4-foot putt, right? So he probably still felt like he had to be aggressive, and he just thinks that's his best way to birdie the hole, or par the hole if he needs to. So I just think great for golf to have him playing at his best, and I'm sure he goes a little bit over the top on the kind of media narratives and things like that, and the Payne Stewart thing leans into that an awful lot. People will get fed up of it eventually, but for the time being, let's all just kind of ride the wave and enjoy him being back where he is.
Yeah, totally agree. I think you said it well. I think we can transition to the DP World Tour and really kind of the stretch of golf that leads into the Open Championship, right? It is a month away? I think pretty much a month away. A couple lead up events here, the KLM Open, the Italian Open, prior to getting into the Scottish Open Championship. And even the Olympics is basically a DP World Tour event playing at Le Golf National, right? That's where Le Golf National this year. So a lot of stretch for the DP World Tour. And I guess off the top, we'll give a shout out to our audio listeners here. I normally wait to the end, but let's make sure we get it nice and early. You can find us anywhere on Mayo Media Network. On the podcast version, it's Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix. We appreciate all the love, support, comments. The DP World Tour has had its, I guess, ups and downs or breaks with schedules so far this year. And we're kind of in the stretch run of going to be the thick things, going to have some guests on as we go into some of the bigger months here too. So excited to keep that running. As we look into this week, KLM Open being played, the last time this course was played is when Sergio won, right? The International back in 2019. I remember this not because of Sergio, but because of Nikolai Højgaard. I think he probably was 17 at the time when he almost chased down Sergio to win here. It was really kind of the coming out party for Nikolai. But yes, KLM Open, top of the odds board for us. So there's a conversation on the first 2 guys on the board. Initially, the Open, Matt Wallace was 20s, maybe even deeper overseas. He's been cut to the favorite, co-favorite with Tom McKibben, 16-1. How do you feel, Tom, on Matt Wallace now at this number versus kind of the Open, and is it still worth chancing?
Yeah, like when I saw him and he was 4th or 5th in the odds board and 20 to 1, 22 to 1, it just felt like a no-brainer. When he becomes a 16 to 1 favourite, you're disappointed but not surprised. I think the reason you're so happy about the 2022 to 1 is the fact that you probably think he should be kind of 18 to 1 or whatever, where Tom McKibben was on that odds board. So I'm absolutely fine still with Matt Wallace. I guess, Sky, just very quickly before we go in to this, very brief mention to Sebastian Soderberg.
I was going to get to him on the odds board, right? The last time.
Yeah. Let's save it for that. Let's go into Matt Wallace. Let's not transition too far. Matt Wallace, first guy that I put down on my list, right? He was 3rd here in 2019. So straight away you've got him following up Sergio and Nikolai Højgaard. He was 9th in the KLM Open 2 years before at the Dutch course as well. 2nd in approach at the Canadian Open, 8th in approach at Myrtle Beach. So hitting the ball really nicely on the PGA Tour. We always talk about these players dropping down from the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. And let's not get away from it as the biggest advocates of the DP World Tour about Sky. We know it is a drop down. You have to treat it as such. And I'm very confident that Matt Wallace can have a really strong week in this tournament. I think it's a course that plays to his strengths. I think there's a slight links element to it, but it's certainly one that you can kind of navigate your way around. And interestingly, Sky, one of the things I think supports the Matt Wallace choice, just looking at kind of like leaderboards and because when you've only got 1 year of course form, I kind of want to see if there's any sort of clues. The Czech Masters is really correlated nicely to this event. So Nikolai Højgaard was 2nd here in 2019. He's been 3rd and 17th at the Czech Masters. Wallace 3rd here, 2nd Todd Clements, obviously at the Czech Masters last year. James Morrison 4th here, 5th and 13th at the Czech Masters. Callum Shinkwin 5th here, 9th at the Czech Masters. Ricard Karlberg 6th here, 5th, 13th and 23rd at the Czech Masters. And you just go to every single player in that top 10 from the 2019 renewal has just got infinitely good performances. Hugo Leone, a player that you like, 7th here, 5th in the Czech Masters. Bradley Tread, 10th here, 2nd in the Czech Masters. And Thomas Peters, 2-time winner in the Czech Masters and finished 10th here. So all those players, go to the top 10 from 2019, they've all got, top 15, top 20 finishes in the Czech. A lot of them much higher than that. I think there might have been one omission, I think, that didn't have good form there. So that is where I've kind of looked. Because you've got decent, I think it goes back to 2014, the Albatross course, right, in the Czech Masters. So you can use that to support more than anything else, I think, your picks along the way.
Yeah, I mean, the comparison to me, it's just flushers, man. Guys that flush the golf ball. I mean, you look at Sergio right in his prime. Anytime Hugo Leone was on a leaderboard, I didn't care that much about around the green or on the green play. Like, not that Sergio isn't a great chipper and some of the guys had to get around with some of it, but Hugo just would hit a fairway and a green and would make a putt if you're lucky, very lucky. But yes, I that was kind of my line in, and I definitely do have more questions. Like, I wasn't as gung ho on Matt Wallace. I didn't mind him at 2016. I think is worth a question. I think we can kind of, as we round out the cards and where I'm going to land, if I end up maybe a long shot or two more, I could see myself doing that as we keep talking. But the next guy to talk, I mean, McKibben made on the major debut. I didn't have any interest, made the cut, didn't have any interest really here. I thought he was actually a pretty good fit for Pinehurst. Was okay, not great, but excited for him to have that experience. I think he played with Scheffler on the last day or Saturday. But in the next range, Rasmus, Wiesberger, Cantor, Mansell, and Sebastian Soderberg. So for those that didn't watch, don't look at the highlights. Don't even think about, I mean, what was a 7-stroke lead on Sunday, right?
8, I think.
8. I mean, I think he was a minus 2,000 favorite at one point. Misses a 1-footer. 2-footer on the last. If Rory's got scars, Soderberg in his home country has to be. You might never. That's like almost a non-recoverable type of situation where your brain just has to shut off when you're on the golf course now. Or I don't know how he's going to have to win from the Lynn Grant position, or else I just can't be confident in him ever.
Lynn Grant was so bad she was almost reluctant to accept the win. Like she literally said, like, I've got so many mixed emotions, and obviously fellow Swede, right? Like she was just, you could see, like, people say this at times, like, I feel bad for so and so, they play so well. She was genuinely distraught for him. But from the very first hole, it just never looked like it on Sunday. Like I know he kind of still had this massive lead. I think he still had kind of like 3-4 shot lead going into the final few holes, 2 shot lead going into the final hole. He just cannot do it. And 63, 66, 66, 77. We talk. This is so hard. And to be honest, hats off to him. The fact that he's here, right? Like unbelievable to just come and pick yourself up and play this again. I think it's always sad for a player like that to play the way he's been playing all season, really, to think, right, this has culminated in this excellent win. So be it. It even looked like he was going to limp over the line on the final hole. Didn't. I think he hit the fairway on the last as well and still just didn't manage to finish it off. Yeah, feel sorry for him, but not surprised either. I think Soderberg's that type of player now, Sky. We look at him. We used to look at him all the time at kind of like 80 to 1, 100 to 1. Gets out to that again, fine. We'll start. We know he's old. You know the ceiling is so high for him, but the floor is not great, and the winning equity neither. So yeah, poor.
So then, who do you choose in this range? Because you got another that you really like, right?
So for me, like when I think about Rasmus Højgaard not playing very well, Tom McKibben coming over from the US Open, Laurie Kanzer coming in off a win recently, Sebastian Soderberg doing what he did. There's a player in there again that we've talked about, Bernd Wiesberger at 20 to 1. And Wiesberger is someone that we know can get the job done. We know that there's no question about it. He chased down Kanzer in Germany. Kanzer actually has to play brilliantly to hold him off. We said, didn't we, Sky? We said what we want to see is when he gets in contention, how does he react? And he reacted, solidly, right? And the approach game is brilliant. Tee to green all round is fantastic. I just think the win is coming. I've been thinking it's been coming for a long while, and the prices hasn't really moved. If anything, now we're dropping down quite dramatically. I think it's kind of like 28 and 33 to 1 before that, but he's been 12th, 2nd, and 9th in this event. All the different golf courses, not this one, but the way he's trending, 3rd and 4th in his approach last 2 starts, 1st and 2nd in tee to green. Wiesberger's ready to win again.
Yeah, I mean, again, a flusher golf course, like this is exactly what you'd line up for him. I just still struggle with some of the numbers and how many long shots I like that. It's kind of my equation here for it, but I would not be surprised in the least bit. He just needs that putter to click a little bit better than field average, just like he did, and he is in the thick of it. And I do like the European Open form too, just because that was another course that you had to be really tight with your irons and you had to be playing well in that manner. So that type of form, I thought, kind of feeds in well here, where I'm almost throwing out the Scandinavian mix. I don't think you can necessarily trust the strokes gain numbers in a way because you're paralleling them against half the field with the females in it. So I'm not as too concerned and kind of throw away there. In the 30s, for me, I have to go back to the well with Guido. Like I just have to, from the form that we see, he was exceptional in Sudal with the irons, just could not putt there. Almost stole the China Open. Who knows? He could have done it with a 4th round. Top 10 at the European Open with a Sunday 78. What was disappointing, but again, to kind of get some of those feels back for him probably goes a long way. And again, this type of course, it's his debut here, but I'm overall very enthused with the way his form is. Now, the odds have crashed from where we were initially betting him, but I'm okay. 33s here for him. The other one that I thought at least kind of exciting to get a PGA Tour guy over here, Luke List is teeing up. Did you have any thought on Luke List?
No, not particularly, but again, it's huge for the tour. I think it adds a very decent level of player to it. I would say, if nothing else, it's surprising that he's bigger than the likes of Mansell, Soderberg, etc. Based on what we've seen, not sure he should be double the price of Rasmus Højgaard based on his skill set.
Right. I would think peak peak Luke List is money for this type of course. That's the only thing. Like if he was like maybe a bit bigger, like if he was 50, I would be on. I think a lot of people would be on.
Alone, yeah. Like I guess the disappointment is he's not playing well at all.
No.
Like, 3 missed cuts in a row on the PGA Tour, and he's not even necessarily sort of in the mix. But this is also someone that was well inside the cut line after round 1 of the PGA Championship. We know he's way better than what he's showing, and it's not that long ago that he was making cuts. So I think he adds firepower without really being worried about him.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. The only other one to me before I guess we get to triple digits. You got somebody else in the mid range to discuss.
Yeah.
But Sam Bairstow. So Sam Bairstow shot, I think, the worst round of the day.
He was
on Thursday, right? He opened with an 84. Now, I didn't have high expectations for Bairstow at the U.S. Open after qualifying, but his year, I mean, you saw Jesper Svensson made the cut, at the PGA. It's kind of parallels to it. And then Bairstow, when 20 guys shot under par on Friday, shot a 67, so a 17 round to round stroke difference. I mean, just the fact to show up and play good golf, like, and not just, blow a head full of steam and not care, and just like, I think I'm holding off because I didn't like how he handled the European Open. I would have thought that just was a better feel for me if he could play well there. After he had been doing everything right. I think you put him up at the European Open, right? Or one of us did that week, where I could make a real argument of just that story on Friday, what he's done in the season. 40s, though, you have to ask the question a little bit, and a bit stronger of a field. But just a shout out to him on that Friday round.
It's actually everything you want to see from someone developing in their career, right? Is to go and do that. I mean, the massive concern is that he's gone and shot an 84 in round 1, but there was some terrible scores out there. I think Mackenzie Hughes was 14 over on one of the days, or Fitz had a really poor day, right? So he wasn't alone.
Yeah, 100%. So who are you intrigued at in the mid range?
Yeah, so when I wrote him down, I was way more enthused than I am as I talk about this now. But I felt like Pablo Larrazábal was slightly too big based on just his form in this event. Right now, he didn't play this course in 2019, but he obviously won the event last year. And before that, he'd been 2nd, 9th, 5th, 20th, and 11th in his 5 starts in the KLM Open before that. Obviously, just loves this part of Europe, plays really well here all the time. He's not hitting the ball particularly well over the last couple of weeks, which is a slight concern. But I do think the way that Pablo Larrazábal carries himself, the way that he knows he's a winner amongst this field, I did think the 50 to 1 was generally pretty generous considering the strength of field here at the KLM Open.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably one that you're going to make money on just blindly betting, right?
Yeah.
I think when any signs point to him, that's when it's bad.
Yeah. Don't make a case for him, just pick him and hope for the best. And that's what concerns me, is that I've been right on Larrazábal a couple of times, but generally speaking, when I do feel strongly about him, it goes badly, and that's what makes me withdraw a little bit. I'm not yet sold on him. There was one other that I just kind of crept into my mind based on the Czech Masters link, Sky, and that was Gavin Green, who it's probably been a while now since we talked about him in any sort of conviction of thinking he's going to win or anything like that. But he was 8th in this event last year. He did play here in 2019. He finished 40th, where he was 2nd after round 1. He opened with a 67. Not been playing his best golf this season, but he was 5th in the Indian Open at a golf course I think he's played well at before. He finished 34th at the European Open, which is solid enough. And he opened with 66 and closed with 69 at Scandinavian Mix. So just signs that Gavin Green might be showing a little bit of form at the right time. And we know if that sort of Czech Masters link comes to fruition, Sky, that he's been brilliant there. So if there's anything in that data that suggests that Gavin Green was the 5th best approach player in the Scandinavian Mix, then I thought he was worth looking at. So I could definitely see myself going to Gavin Green over Pablo Larrazábal as we talk here.
So the way I didn't inspected as much. But the way I understood it was the girls were way more likely to look better off the tee
Okay.
because they're hitting it further or have less into approach
Yeah.
compared to the guys because of how far up the tee boxes were. So then the approach numbers for the guys looked really good because they're hitting it from further and potentially hitting it closer, or then at least getting to the same spot. So if
And
they
then get
got to the same spot, the
Yeah.
girl would have been better off the tee. The guy would have been better approach.
Okay.
So not that he didn't, I mean, he was still competing against the men competitors in
Yeah.
theory. So if he was fifth against the men, that's still a strong approach week
Yeah.
type of thing. But the
Just
raw number is weird,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Just like be slightly cautious, I guess.
Yeah.
On that, but yeah, I think for me, probably more likely a first round leader to play someone like Gavin Green, and almost certainly get a feature for me in that respect. But yeah, that's where I'm at in the mid range with Larapapa and Gavin Green.
Cool. Okay. So for me, I think we can go all the way to triple digits. I'm in the
Yes.
triple digits. You are next. I've got a slew of them.
Okay.
So I'll go with the first one here at 100 to 1 because yours is at 100 to 1 as well.
Correct.
And we talked about this being a really great bounce back spot after betting him a good amount of time, but it was Ivan Quintero. If we look at Ivan Quintero, I think the more I've learned about his game, I was quite wrong about the player he was. I was thinking he was some accuracy type of guy who could just stripe it. And I think he's built around power a little bit more. And, he hasn't, of the times I've seen him, he chips in from everywhere, like everywhere. He had 3 chip-ins in one round when I think he cashed that huge each way at the Johnson Workwear. But that is his game, it seems like. I mean, he's gonna have to hit more greens likely here, but he came off that awful week at the Sudal Open. He was top 10 heading into the final round there. I think we've seen him at courses. I mean, Johnson Workwear, that leaderboard outside of Manacero had a couple of the bigger hitters. It wasn't as tight as maybe the Magical Kenya Open was, where he played well and Van Driel won. But that shout at the European Open was something that I really, really liked from him. He's just been a tough one to nail at courses, and I think this might be more of the route. But the Sudal Open, I guess Ringfin was a little bit tighter. I don't know. This just feels like he could be somebody who just continues to pay off, and I want to keep confidence when we're getting triple digits for him.
Yeah, I think you will benefit from distance here. Like it's one of those weird. I think this is why I like the check so much, is that it seems to be that the real big hitters relish being here, but you can compete by being shorter. Like, so James Morrison played well here, and Bradley Dredge has played by the Czech Masters, etc. Like the type of player can both work, but I think you can sort of over. I guess thinking about potentially Backham, I guess the Sadal, right? Like in that kind of route that you can use that to your effect, and so I think you will benefit from having that extra distance that Quintero possesses there.
Yep, 100%. So okay. So that is my 100 to 1. You've got one. I think he's hundreds in the States at least. Yeah. Okay. Up to you.
So Todd Clements for me, and this is certainly leaning on that Czech Masters link, right? Like he won this tournament over Matt Wallace in 2023, but he's found some form as well, 18th, 34th, and 25th in his last 3 starts. Obviously, one of those being the Scandinavian mixed. 21st in this event last year, but he was actually 4th going into the final round. Again, different golf course, Sky, but good feelings coming back to a tournament that you do like. I think he's a player that, generally speaking, is going to be pretty solid as his DP World Tour career goes on. Still, he's 27. He's not young, but he's still got plenty to learn. I don't think he's been around for that long at this level. And we've seen the upside is a win. And yeah, I just thought 100 to 1 when I'm pretty keen on that Czech Masters link was pretty big for me. So the ball striking has been solid as opposed to exciting. Like he was really good off the tee in the Sadal and gained an approach in Sadal and the European Open. But I think I'll go back to kind of like the Qatar Masters at the start of the year. He had a really good approach week. Dubai Invitational had a good approach week there as well. So typically been his short game that's let him down over the course of the season. And there was just a little flicker of hope there when he gained on the putting greens in the European Open. So I think for the most part, he's kind of encouraging me over the last 3 weeks, Todd Clements. So yeah, I think 18th is his best finish of the season. Is that good enough? No, but he was in terrible form when he won the Czech Masters last year. Like he was miscut, 60-second miscut. So the fact he's actually showing some signs suggests to me that coming back to a course I think could be perfectly suitable. 100-1 Todd Clements looks like good value.
Strokes gained good vibes his last round. He shot a 66 playing with his girlfriend, Olivia Cowan, on the Sunday, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, somebody who seems to have spike weeks with approach that could, if you land one of those, you're in the thick of it here with Clements. I've got 4 guys at 150-1, Tom. 4
Nice.
of them. I'm betting all with the each way. Rivers in the States give you 6 places here. All are 150s there. You might find deeper prices. I'm going to go 1 through 4 right through them here. And it rounds out for me my selections. If there's other guys we want to talk through, we can do that too. First up is, if we're going alphabetical order, Angel Ayora. He's coming off of 2 top 11 place finishes his last 2 times out on the Challenge Tour. If you recall, he played pretty decent. I think he was a second stage winner, or in the thick of it during Q School. Top 20, or I guess 21st, the Aussie Open, where he closed with a 65 there. I think he got tipped quite a bit in Mauritius the next week. But then on the Challenge Tour is now, I would say, pretty outstanding year. I think 6 top 15s so far in 9 starts for him. Made a cut in the Puerto Rico Open there. And that's really all we have from him in a professional standpoint. As an amateur, he was a decent am overall, but didn't really get some of the biggest tests. And we haven't had a plethora of strokes gained data on him, so it's hard to know his game overall. But looking back when he played the Andalusia Masters a couple years ago at Valderrama, he was pretty long in a good short game. So that type of combination I think could play well. He's 150s and he's only 19 years old still, so a ton of upside for Angel Ayora. Then I'm going back to our friend James Nicholas. So James Nicholas almost ripped my heart out a couple of weeks ago as I woke up Thursday morning when he would have been in, which event was it? It was the week after the European Open, right? So the Challenge Day Cadiz, I think it was the one. He opened with a 64 first round leader. He then followed that up with an 80 to still make the cut, but a 16 stroke in the bad way, almost pulled a bear still. But then he shot 67, 71, finished 26th. Then if you look at his 2 starts prior to that, European Open, he was 132nd after the first round, finished 25th. Week before that, Sudal, he was 15th after the opening round, 23rd going into Sunday. And then I think the Zurich was something we had brought up where him and Brandon Wu did make that cut there. I just think it's a lot of positive things pointing in his direction. Somebody, again, who got through all of the qualifying schools to get his spot on the DP World Tour. In the spot starts in the past, Corn Ferry, strong one. So I think he's got enough to him. James Nicholas, 151, number 2, not catching my breath. Actually, Tom, I'm going to pass this one to you because you liked this guy too. If you're ready for it, Yannick De Bruin at 150s.
Yeah, I think with Yannick De Bruin, right? Like, I think the overwhelming feeling is that he's going to be a DP World Tour talent at some point, right? He's playing most of his stuff on the Challenge Tour right now, but he opened with that 64 at the European Open 2 starts ago. He was second after round 2, still 4th going into the final round. He shot a final round 78 in Germany. Not too much of a surprise, right? Considering he's fairly untested at this level. He gets kind of spot invites and things like that. But you go back a couple of weeks before that, and he'd been 23rd in the Challenge Tour at the Open de España. He'd been 13th at the Indian Open. He opened and closed with a 67 on a really tough golf course there. And then last week, he had a brilliant chance to win. He was the 36-hole leader at the Cascada Golf Challenge. Shot a 74 when he was in contention on the Saturday, and then closed it out with a 66 to actually stay in 3rd place and hang on to that. So winning experience still to come, Sky. Still, a little bit rough around the edges, but these raw talent players are the sort of things you like at this kind of number.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, he seemed, I was kicking myself too of looking at him being like, oh, he was an obvious one on the challenge tour. Then I think he had a quad on Saturday that kind of
Yeah.
put him out of it. But yes, good vibes, I think, for De Bruyne. And then the last one, I'm going to stick with Robin Williams. Robin Williams, he double check your books because he was a late field ad this week, but he is now coming off a second place at that same Challenge Tour event, 33rd in the week prior to that on the Challenge Tour. I believe that week he closed incredibly strong too. His full stats haven't loaded in because, again, the late ad to the field. But again, we lost out on the playoff earlier this year at the STC Open with Gumberg and Williams, an event he probably should have won when he double bogeyed 16. He had a fifth earlier at the Challenge de España. I mean, that's three top fives so far in his challenge tour in 7 starts. So again, upside, it is a step up in class and strongness, but not to the degree I don't think somebody at these type of prices, when you look at the Aora, De Bruyne, Williams, Nicholas, when he played on the challenge tour, like I think all of those guys are definitely worth chancing with big each way prices.
I think so. A couple of things more on a couple of those players. So Euro, I don't know an awful lot about. I'll be completely honest. I know that he's a really young talent. Though Ben's been relatively high on him in recent starts on the Challenge Tour. With Nicholas, I think it's a case of learning how to play 4 round tournaments. Like he's a lot of these things he's been playing sort of like 1 day events or 2 day events, right? Like he's played a lot of mini tour stuff when he's not been able to get starts on the Corn Ferry in the past. So a lot of learning to do there. But the way he bounced back from the European Open was great after round 1. Yannick De Bruyne actually finished 23rd at the Czech Masters in 2022. So he's only 24 now, so he was 22 then. 71 in round 1, 69 in round 2, 67 in round 3. And then, of course, it finished after 54 holes. Sky, we were on Gavin Green that week and he lost by 1 stroke, didn't go a further round, right? So no reason to think he would have actually climbed up any higher than that as well. So I am going to definitely join you on the Yannick De Bruyne shout there at 150 to 1. You can get 175 if you want to go for glory, but yeah, 150 to 1 with the each way I think is the way to play him. Yeah, that's how I feel with those guys. Just very quick words, Sky, on a couple of players that were close for me. Kiradek Afibama at 100 to 1. I just thought there was a lot of interest in him, wasn't there, in Germany a couple of starts ago. He did miss the cut, but he's played this tournament well in the past with 9th and 5th place finishes. So I like that. I think when you've only got 1 year of course on, I think it's important to see how people have played in this event. Joost Lausen's playing his home event 55 to 1. Will be popular. I didn't necessarily get there. I think that's probably about it. I think that's where I'm at with those. So definitely I'm gonna slot Yannick De Bruyne in at the end of my card there, and we'll round them up when you're ready.
Okay. Yeah. Other guys that I thought were at least worth mentioning. I'm scrolling through. Shout out to Mike Miller, who launched his new site, Smart Golf Info. If you've used Smart Golf Bets in the past, now behind a paywall, it's $2, cup of coffee a week to get access there. So shout out to him to going that route. But if I scroll through a little bit there, it was good to see Jonathan Goth Rasmussen pick up a win on the Challenge Tour 2 weeks ago. He's somebody who we had kind of bet on a few times here at big numbers. So he was somebody who's now popped up. Dan Torp had played well recently. Jones and Galletti are getting starts. And of course, FOMO at my heart if they are going to compete and be in the mix. Lars Vanderveit, he's been playing decent in the amateur. If I looked at like home guys, and then Vince Van Veen is coming off of 3 consecutive 3rd place finishes on the Alps Tour. Just some shout outs to the local guys, but that's really the only other one who I really contemplated was, could this just be an absolute flushing standpoint for Dan Bradbury? All eyes were on him when he did the European Open. We all bet him the next week. Maybe this is a better fit. Could be a little bit more flop leg here for him. So I'll keep my eyes on Bradbury, but I am ready to round back the cards if you are, Tom.
Yeah, let's do it. So I'm going to stick with Matt Wallace at 16 to 1, despite the price coming in. Bernd Wiesberger at 20 to 1. I'm going to give Pablo Larrafa the benefit of the doubt at 45 to 1 or 50 to 1, I think he is now, with the just the history in the KLM Open. Todd Clements 100 to 1 there. And then the Yannick De Bruyne 150 to 1 shout with you, with the proviso that I'm definitely going to bet Gavin Green first round leader in that market instead.
Perfect. All right, Guido Migliozzi, 33s with the, so all these are 6th place each way because you can get Guido at 40 as well outright. So Guido 33, Ivan Quintero 100, Angel Ayora 150, James Nicholas 150, Yannick De Bruyne 150, and Robin Williams 150 to 1, rounding out the week. You know, if Guido wants to set the table here, a little appetizer for the Italian Open next week, we would all really like that. So kudos, best of luck to everyone. Tom, congrats again on the US Open ticket, and we will see you back next week for the show.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Good luck, everyone.